each financial report. Several months ago, I asked 3 citizens, Greg Gardner, Gary Hayward, and Jerry Wedda, to take a long-term view of the financial future of Carefree. This is not necessarily a plan that we're going to follow. It's not something carved in concrete. But it was my intention to have 3 independent citizens, independently, without influence from the town or the council, look at our future and say, do we have a sustainable economic model? Fundamentally, we run the town on sales tax and revenue from the state. And I wanted these 3 citizens to look at what the next 10 years might bring to us. Today, they're presenting to us their report. As with any report, when you're looking at the future, anything is possible. Mr. Hayward, anything is possible.
Gary Hayward, 7720 East Carefree Drive. Mr. Mayor, Ms. Vice Mayor, and council members, I'd like to bid you good evening. It's difficult to forecast for 1 year, let alone 10 years. But as I found in business, there are 3 types of people. Those that make things happen, those that watch things happen, and those that say, what happened? By planning, you make things happen. And by not planning, you either are in the other 2 categories. I'd like to give a special thanks to Gary Neese and the staff for assisting us by making these charts. I'd also like to thank my fellow committee members, Greg Gardner and Jerry Wedda. But as you know, we live off our sales tax revenue. And our projections show that if the economy does as the so-called experts predict, we should be sound with our sales tax, providing citizens don't ask for more service. Given our present situation and given how it's been managed in the past, we feel that there's adequate revenue, barring some unforeseen economic disaster, that we can carry out some of these things. We looked at different ways to forecast these numbers, and we looked at a national level, we looked at a state level, and we tried to look at a local level, which of course is very difficult. See the revenue assumptions that were made. I used the University of Arizona to forecast sales tax growth. That was the closest I could get to anything within the state, what they projected in their business school as to what the forecast would be for sales tax. They only went out for so many years, and then after that I had to revert to the Congressional Budget Office and their CPI index. There's a list of the various assumptions that were made, and I won't bore you with the details, but you can see we tried to use the best available information by the so-called experts. Page 8 in the report, we have 3 tables. Table 3, 4, and 5. Let's focus on 5 first of all. This is the table that forecasts what we believe will happen based upon the economic forecast that we received from the League of Cities and Towns, the University of Arizona, and the Congressional Budget Office. And as you can see, what we did was to forecast the revenue and then use the base scenario budget for the next fiscal year and grow it according to the CPI or other indicators as shown in the chart. We wind up with a net income, you can read it there, starting in 2013 of $488,300 and increasing $1,716,346. That is if we did nothing but run the town. To Table 8, which is on page 11. First of all, the committee took the position that we would not consider any income tax for the town of Carefree. We feel that the town has been well managed by the town councils of the past, and the city employees and managers, and that it's not necessary to impose a property tax. We believe that the long-range forecast and the long-standing tradition of paying as you go is the way to run this town. If you look at Table 8, there are several things. It's if you look at page 8, let's see, 3 lines down, you'll notice that the net are the same numbers I showed you on the previous chart. Now go down to the total cash after expenses, and you'll see a line there that shows the cash. Now comes the deductions. The town is primarily responsible for the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. And included in that, kind of discerned, included in that is a major item, which is our streets. The town staff did a magnificent job in studying the conditions of our streets, and there have been new technologies which apparently allow you to keep your streets forever. You don't have to replace them if you maintain them in a certain way. And they've done a good job in laying that out. Now that's the major expenditure that we have facing us over the next several years. Pavement maintenance program, these lines aren't numbered, but under the first line under capital investments, it starts out $1,200,000 in 2012 and 13, and then $430,000 in 2013, 14, and so on and so forth, for a total of $3,430,000 that we need to spend over the next 10 years on our streets. And the next thing we think that ought to be done is that we should create a savings fund to add on to the town hall. Then the next thing that we think should be done, and you can see the years in which we propose to do this, is to pay off the WIFL loan. That's providing that interest rates don't change dramatically. If short-term interest rates were to rise dramatically, we would then not do that. Because right now, we're paying, I don't know, is it 4%, Mayor?
3.45, I believe.
3.45, and we're getting less than 0.5% on our money in the bank. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to sit there and pay that much on a WIFL loan, and when you're only earning that much on your cash. So we're proposing that the WIFL loan be paid off. We still have sufficient cash funds. So now we go into the wish list. The first thing we think ought to be done is, rather than kind of doing this on an ad hoc, piecemeal basis, is to spend the money and have a comprehensive plan drawn for the whole town, including parking, gateways, splash pools, whatever people have in their minds. This should be planned in advance, and we should spend the money on it rather than trying to do pieces here and there. We need something that integrates the whole town to make it a unified face to the visitors to attract people here to spend their money.